What is going on, everybody? Let me know if you can hear me in the chat room. I appreciate having every single one of you on tonight. So, real quick before we get into the video, I do have one announcement. The Wealth Journey series will be back this week. It is posting Monday evening at 5:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So be in tune for that because that is coming out. It's going to be some very exciting stuff. I have a different twist on things now, and I have a whole new flow for how I'm doing that specific series, that specific show here on this channel. Thank you all for joining me this evening. Hopefully you are all doing well. It has been a very busy week. Very busy week, but I'm happy to be up here, and I'm super excited for our conversation tonight because this is going to be a heavy topic. If any of you want to go ahead and join the call line, I do have it open right now, and I did just drop the link just further up in the chat room. So we're going to jump into the disclaimer on this fine evening. This show is for educational purposes only. Please make sure you do your own due diligence and your own research when it comes to making your own financial decisions for your life. That is the short, sweet, simple financial disclaimer. Today we're going to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I actually figured out a very long time ago. A lot of you already know this, but I'm going to go into this just a little bit. I built my net worth to six figures when I was 28 years old. I'm 30 now, and it's almost doubled. If not already, I have to double check my net worth, and I am dropping a net worth video here in about a week or so. But I say all that to let you know it is extremely important to keep this one thing in mind, and this one thing kind of has like 20 things inside of it. It's an extremely important thing that every single adult on this planet needs to learn. I was blessed enough to learn it early on in life because this actually starts before you get out there on your own, before you move out of your parents' house, before you have your salary and your full-time job and everything. This is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how it's not your 9 to 5 that's actually keeping you behind financially. It's not the lack of raises. It's not the lack of promotions or anything like that. And it's definitely not keeping you so busy that you just can't reach your goals. This is something that I've been seeing a pattern of my entire life. I've seen some people get ahead of it. I've seen some people get around it. And I've seen some people stay behind it for pretty much their entire lives. And I'm here to tell you that you actually have more power and more time than you really think you do. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the missed opportunities that you're not taking because as there is a thing called a 9 to 5, there's also a 5 to 9. And when I say 9 to 5, I want to be very clear about something. I've never had a 9 to 5 in my life, but I've had a full-time job throughout my entire adult career. So when I say that, and when I say adult career, I mean like just when I was in like college, for example, I was working, at Food Line, working at the grocery store, stuff like that. I'm talking about full-time employment type of deal. So when it comes to a full-time job, what we have to realize is that it is there for us to make a living. And we forget about some very important things. And I am going to be looking down here at my lovely deck of notes. I will actually be sharing my screen at some point throughout this video. You'll see it here on screen. But if you do have a full-time job, this video is for you. If you're somebody who's like believing that money doesn't grow on trees, this video is most definitely for you because there's a lot of limiting beliefs that comes with money and personal finances in general. So if you want to make money in your sleep, you haven't figured out how to do it. If you want to get better financially, you haven't figured out how to do it. This video is for every single one of you who has pain points around work, around money, and around just overall busyness, because that is something that takes over a lot of us as adults and we just don't even realize it. And it's something that I did again figure out early on in life, but this does take place way before you move out and before you end up out on your own, because the 5 to 9 grind is something serious. So when I said I never had a a 9 to 5 in my life. I'm just saying I've never done anything for 8 or 9 hours. It's always been 12-hour shifts for me. So 7 to 7, 6 to 6. I've done a 7 to 9 before. I've done um, not a 7 to 9. I meant to say a 7 to 5. So I've done 10-hour shifts. I've done 12-hour shifts. And sometimes 12-hour shifts easily turn into 14-hour days. So this is for anybody who has a full-time job. That is what this video is for. Just to be extremely clear. So we're going to talk about the several reasons that most adults are behind financially, and we're going to talk about how to get around those things. So let's start with this. Everybody watching right now, you probably have a full-time job. Everybody who tunes into my show, tunes into my channel, watches my content in general, you probably have a full-time job. And here's the part where I actually share my screen just so y'all can see what I'm seeing, and we kind of have agreements on some things. You're free and more than welcome to make a few comments to, let me know if you want to add anything. I want to make this a little bigger so you can see it. My handwriting is not the best. I am a left-handed individual, but this should do just fine. So when it comes to having a full-time job, we have a few things. We have good things, which are going to be things like your full-time job and then your after work routine. That's what your 5 to 9 is. Your 5 to 9 is nothing but your after work routine. So if you work a 12-hour day, you may not have a 5 to 9. So if you work 7 to 7, you might have an 8 to 10. You might have a couple hours, maybe 3 hours max, that you have free. That's fine. Anytime that you have available to yourself, you've got to absolutely go ahead and use that for your benefit. And this is where a lot of people mess up at. Your 9 to 5 is where a lot of people, they put a lot of energy, a lot of effort into. They want to look good, they want to sound good, they want to be good, they want to be promoted, they want the best for them. They want to seek coaching, they want to seek guidance, they want to seek membership. A lot of times these things are available to them and it is completely free. In fact, they get paid to learn on the job and they get paid to do well on the job and to increase output, whatever the case is for their specific job, right? They have to perform. But how many of y'all know outside of work you also have to perform as well? Simon, what is up? How you doing? How you doing? Um, you have your after work schedule. Your after work routine is what is paramount in your success. And this is something I learned a very long time ago. But we're going to get into that soon. But with full-time jobs, we have good things and we have some not so good things. So let's talk about the not so good things. Because there's things that revolve around your life that you have to take care of. And what a lot of people don't realize is life is a full-time job, more so than your actual full-time job. So you have things like debt, you have bills, you may have a car payment. Just to go in depth to what those bills could look like, you have rent, you might have mortgage, you might have subscriptions out the wazoo, you might have to pay for gas and auto and all these other things. You have food to take care of, you have stress, and if you have general disorganization, all of these things are going to be very hard for you to manage. And we've all gone through this at some point, but your occasional bad day at work, and sometimes a bad day at work can look like an entire bad week at work or just a rough month at work. Excuse me. There's a lot of variables that come with your job. Let me just move this a little bit. It was kind of, whoops, I need to move this one. Yeah, okay. So I just needed to move that. It was starting to block my face a little bit. But anyway, those are the not so good things that kind of just come with the territory. That's one of those things, that's how it is. You're going to have your good days and your bad days in any aspect of life, sports, relationships, jobs. You get the idea. So let's talk about distractions that are also on top of this. This is where, things start to get a little real. So I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see the whole picture. So how many of y'all have Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, HBO Max? Some of y'all know people who have all of those things. Those are distractions. And just for the record, distractions are not necessarily a bad thing. They can become a very bad thing in your life if you let them take over your 5 to 9 completely, like most people do. But we will get into that in a second. We also have friends, coworkers who want to hang out after work, or you might have friends who want to hang out in general. They may have certain things that they want to do with you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they might want to watch the game or something, right? You might have also social media platforms like Instagram is a very big one, where you fall into these comparison traps, and you're looking at all these different lifestyles, and people in Lamborghinis, and people out on the beach, and everybody that's like 20 years old. It seems like 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds are all out here just free. They don't have any debt. They're multimillionaires. They figured out the keys of life early on in life. Uh, they have the perfect girlfriend, the perfect relationship, the perfect marriage, the perfect job, the perfect entrepreneurial journey, the perfect everything. You understand what I'm saying. And it's easy to fall into these comparison traps and end up very distracted. So of course you have your phone in general. Phones are just addictive by nature. Like they were literally designed to be addictive. The color palette on your phone, the fact that the form factor of a phone where it can just fit into your hand nicely, everything that your phone can do, internet, contact, all these things are distractions. Your thoughts can even be distractions. Your job can stay in the back of your mind as soon as you're outside of work, and it might take you a few days. If you're anything like me, it might take you a few days to actually cool down and get certain things off your mind. And if somebody says something to you that you just don't like, there's a lot of things on this list. There's drinks, there's parties, there's happy hour, there's going out to shows, there's just all kinds of things. There's holidays. There's a lot of distractions out here in life, and nothing's wrong with a lot of these distractions. It's good to have fun. It's good to enjoy yourself, but it should not be overly prioritized to the point where future you has to suffer because of it. And we'll get into some more of that as well. And here's what some of your should be priorities are. So, of course, things like, spirituality, religion, your significant other, your family, these are obviously going to be priorities. Um, Personal finances is a big one. And personal finances, that's a very big category. It has a lot of things in it. So there's like personal finance books. There's learning how to budget, learning how to invest, learning how to save, right? There's learning how to pay taxes, learning how to avoid certain taxes legally. There's tracking your expenses. There's all these things. And if I haven't said budgeting already, I'll just say it again. It's probably the most important thing on this list. If you can't budget, you really can't do anything. But there's also your health. There's also your diet. There's your fitness. There's goal setting. There's chores, cleaning the house, meal prepping, doing the responsible things that adults out here are supposed to be doing. There's an awful lot of things that we have to do. And like I said, life 100% is a full time job. There's also appointments, there's bills you may be behind on. There's just so many priorities. How do we balance all of it? So all of these things remain on anybody's mind, right? So you have your full-time job, you have a good gig, you have somewhat of a work routine, which hopefully this video helps you transform whatever your after work routine actually is. You have the not so good things that pretty much everybody has. And if you're not in debt or any of these other things, you definitely have bills because you're responsible for such things in life. And not to mention, you also have retirement plans and all these other things just in the back of your mind that you may or may not be already participating in general. But you have all these things. You have these distractions around you at all times. You have your should be priorities. And on top of all of this, you might even be going to school. You might even have kids. And if you're just by yourself, that is probably the most ideal thing to start off in life because you can actually digest these things one by one by one, and you don't get bombarded for life and end up making excuses for yourself down the road. So let's talk about what most people do after work. And if you don't mind, if you're watching me right now in real time and you want to let me know what is your routine after work right now, cuz I'll tell you what most people do. Right here on this. They eat, shower, Netflix and chill, go to bed, repeat. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And that is like 90% of adults right now. And eating can look like ordering food out because you don't feel like cooking because you had a long day at work. You got stuck in traffic for an hour to and from work. So it really made an 8 hour day into like an 11-hour day. And I've got to be honest, I've seen this happen to a lot of people. And you could have been staying after work for a long meeting that went way over when it was supposed to end because somebody was extremely passionate about the topic on that fine day. And because they were so passionate about the topic, the meeting ran over 30 minutes. And that just so happens to be when an accident happened on the highway. And so from work, you're held back 30 minutes and it already takes you 45 minutes to get to the house anyway. You get what I'm saying. So you might either order food or you might just pick something up at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A. This is a very typical day. What do people usually do on the weekend? Well, they usually do the same exact things, but they might add shopping on top of it, right? They might add certain things on top of it. They might go out with their friends. They might go catch a game. They might go to B Dubs or something like that. They might go to Kickback Jacks or something to chill, eat some ribs, eat some burgers or something, watch the game, just kick it with some friends. They might even go to church on Sundays. They might be running errands, shopping, clothes, shoes, got to stay fresh. There's a lot of things that people prioritize during these times. They might plan a little for the next week. Then you blink and it's the weekend all of a sudden. So I just wanted to share that with you just to kind of open your eyes when it comes to this is typically what happens. This is what most of us do. And so when we talk about being financially behind, and financially behind does not mean broke. It just means simply that you are behind where you expect yourself to be in life and within your own personal finances. Does that make sense? You might be wanting to have a 6 figure net worth, for example, but you might feel behind. You might want to feel like you have more of a buffer in your checking account. You might want to have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in your savings account. You might want to be able to get whatever car you want to get, go on whatever vacation you want to go on without having to worry about going broke because because you have a specific savings account. Sinking fund is what they're called, but you have a specific sinking fund that is specifically for you going on vacation and you just spend it blindly until it's either empty or your vacation is over and all of it is 100% guilt free. So that's what I mean by financially behind. You might be in debt and you just want to be debt free. You might want to just earn 6 figures. Like you could be behind on your earning potential. You might be behind on how much you're able to save. You might be behind on how much you're able to invest. You might want to make your money work for you, right? There's a lot of pain points around money, and there's a lot of things that people want with money. And here's what I'm here to tell you. You've got to change your schedule outside of work. That's what you got to do. And here's why. I'm going to take a step real quick. I am thirsty on this fine evening. That was not a sip, but it's okay. So here's the thing. When I first started my internship, I was working at this big tire company. I ended up getting hired on full time afterwards. Worst job I ever had. But as an internship, they dressed it up, made it look like the best job opportunity ever. So just for a little background, I have an industrial engineering and technology background. I'm heavy into tech, heavy into industrial engineering. That was my subject matter when I was in college. That's what I was studying, and that was why this big Fortune 500 company saw it for me at the young age of 20 years old. So anyway, I start the internship and it's like perfect because, during training at least, The day would start around 7. I'd be at home by 3. And I just had all this time, so I would kick back. I would watch Netflix. I would kick it with some friends. You know what I mean? I would I would be able to just live what is considered a normal life. And I was happy with that and it was cool. Except sometimes it got kind of boring. And then we moved to 12-hour shifts, but that was half the week. And so I would be working 2 days, 12 hours, 12 hours. Then I'm off for 2 days. And I'm like, oh man, this is nice. Then I'd work 3 days, be off 2 days. And then eventually, every other week, it would rotate to where I would get 3 days off. And I was like, oh man, is this how life is like? This is great. And so I got really, really comfortable, watched a lot of Netflix, hung out with friends. I was going to different events, things like that. I was just enjoying myself and having fun as 20-year-olds do, right? But then as I was going through my senior year in college, I realized that I had more goals on top of that. I didn't really know exactly what those goals were. I just knew that I wanted to be successful within my career. I knew I wanted to make six figures and I knew I wanted to have a lot of money in the bank, but I didn't have tangibles. I didn't know exactly how much money in the bank would be a lot. I didn't know what investing looked like, but I knew I wanted to eventually invest and I didn't really know about the stock market or any of those things. And so I took my engineering economics class. Anyway, way too much background. My point behind that is when I did get hired on full time, I got thrown into possibly the worst situation that any 21-year-old who just graduated could possibly get thrown into as it relates to full time work because it was no longer 8 hour days or just working half the week at 12 hours. No, it was working 7 days a week throughout any given week for 12 hours a day. And that just became life. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I gotta, you know what I'm saying? I gotta keep the 6 pack of abs going. I gotta keep my muscles going. I gotta keep hitting the gym. So that was what I did. And I found a way to find little pockets of time in between work to go ahead and go to the gym. I had financial goals. So like I was like, look, I'm not getting much sleep anyway. What's sacrificing an hour when I get home to go ahead and look up things about personal finance? We'll start as simple as budgeting. We'll figure it out. We'll look at saving next. How do I save more money? We'll look at, oh, you can make more money. Oh, that's cool. And then I would just find more topics. And I would find these relatively young people, 24, 25 years old, who would do freelance work or who were, starting a YouTube channel, making passive income from YouTube, bringing in $5,000 a month, bringing in $1,000 a month. I was like, this is just really cool. I was like, I'd love to just make a few $100s a month. So when I start paying off my student loans, this is 21-year-old me, by the way, but when I start paying off my student loans, I'll have this extra money that's not really coming out of my work paychecks or anything like that. So there were a lot of things that were on my mind at the time. On top of all these other things that you saw on the list, I was in, so just for reference, I'm in a relationship right now. At the time, like almost 9 years ago, I was in a different relationship and we had a bad breakup during that specific time. So that was on my mind. Being in student loan debt was on my mind. All these other things. I'm like, you know what? I'm as young as I will ever be. I need to get on top of all of these things. I need to figure out how to make time for all these things. And for the relationship part, it was as easy as I'm no longer in this relationship. I have to cut her off as soon as possible. And that was exactly what I did. So that's one thing. But then all the other things, I have to focus on myself. I have to stay focused on my career. I have to understand how this process works. I have to understand how to lead people. I really took some time inside of work to figure my career out, but I also spent time outside of work figuring my life out. And that is the key. That is the key. You have to figure out if you have a certain goal for your life. I don't know if I'm just wired differently, but the thing I tell anybody I've ever mentored or worked with when it comes to my personal finance business, the biggest thing I tell them is You have to make room for your goal and you have to sacrifice for it. And it is as simple as that. So you want, if you have a goal, like that's something to me that keeps me up at night. I'm like, nah, I can't go to sleep with this. It just doesn't rest well with my spirit that I'm making X amount of dollars and I feel that I should be making this amount of dollars. This is what's going to help get me towards my goal. You have to put a plan together to reach that goal. You have to really see yourself reaching that goal, holding that amount of money, having that amount of money in your bank account, having that level of success at your career, having that relationship that you're wanting to have, having that healthy diet, having that healthy routine, being able to work out, having fitness. You have to literally sit down and plan that out and see what that looks like for your life. And when we talk about people being behind financially, how many people really take the time to understand what budgeting really is? And I can tell you, no matter how simple any personal finance topic seems, it is often a lot deeper than you really think it is. And it will take you a minute to sit down and really focus on it. And really, what it boils down to is effort. And what it boils down to is understanding what exactly it is that you want to do. When you put those two together, you get results and then you build silently. You build this wealth. My wealth journey series and everything, I wish I would have broadcasted the whole thing from start to now, but I was able to capture it right as I hit my 6 figure net worth, and I'm showing you building it from 6 figures to 1 million in real time. That's exactly what I'm doing with this. And so I'm excited to be able to do that. But what we don't realize is the level of work and the level of intention it really takes behind the scenes to make that happen. This video that you're watching right now, it took time to be able to put together live shows. It took time to be able to learn personal finances to the point where I'm able to explain it to someone else and it just rolls off the tongue, supernatural, and I know exactly what it is that I'm talking about. And I know how to make myself money in the market. I know how to make you money in the market. I know how to help you save more money. I know how to help myself save more money. And I built WealthSync AI, which is a personal finance spreadsheet on top of an app. It's a smart spreadsheet, really is what it is. The app is built on top of Google Sheets, and I have already showed this to you in previous videos, so I'm not going to show it again in today's video, but I just want to say all of this comes together from a accumulation of me just having things on my mind, and instead of just internalizing those feelings and instead of just kind of like blaming my job for not having time to make these things come to fruition, I use every little pocket of time that I can to become a better man, a better entrepreneur, a better boyfriend to my girlfriend, and and just become a better mentor, right? And become better in every aspect of life. I've used these little pockets of time to build one thing at a time. So I started with personal finances. And then guess what? Once my money was up, I had more options in life. And then I started, focusing more on diet, because when your money it has increased, you can afford a more premium diet where you're actually eating things that are really 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 good for you, that optimize your brain and optimize your bodily function. And then laying into martial arts, Muay Thai specifically. I train Muay Thai. Being a better boyfriend to my girlfriend, being able to get her better gifts, taking her to better places, but also having more time to spend with her. That is the most valuable part. And so when you look at the whole picture, you might be behind on certain things, but you can't use excuses like, oh, the job just has me so busy. I'd be so tired after work. Look, if you're still awake during those hours where you're tired, you're not as tired as you think you are, because if you're truly that tired, you would be sleeping. You would be bout out. You would be out for like 11 hours and you'd wake up just in time to get ready for work, and then you would rinse and repeat every single day. But most of us are awake while we're tired, and that means you have time to learn. You don't have to do anything right away. You can at least learn about how things work. When I first started personal finances, I didn't know nothing about nothing, so I wasn't doing anything. I was watching YouTube videos. I was reading books about personal finances. I was listening to audiobooks about personal finances. I was listening to audiobooks about success in general. And I learned about the compound effect, which we talked about on the last live. I learned about rich dad, poor dad. I learned about what assets are and what liabilities are and what's the difference. You know what I mean? And if you know what you don't know, that is actually, if I'm gonna say that again. If you know what you don't know, that is a wonderful gift because that means you now know what you can research on your own time. And no, it's not going to be the most fun thing you've ever done. No, it is not going to be the most exciting thing you've ever done. It might even be a little boring, but when you get to build the life that you visualize and fantasize about every single day, and you get to build that life piece by piece, day by day, step by step, it is an exhilarating, and that just means really supercharging, exciting feeling that you can have. It is the most empowering, electrifying feeling that you can possibly have when you're able to build your dream life. And you have to do that within your 5 to 9. You have to do that during your weekend. That's not to say that you can never have fun, you can't have relationships or anything like that. I have all those things. But it wasn't before I figured out the personal finance thing, reached my goal of reaching the 6 figure net worth, reached my goal of having a 6 figure salary. And when your net worth is greater than your salary, that's a wonderful feeling, especially when you started out your career with like a negative 25,000 net worth because, or no, I'm sorry, a negative $32,000 net worth because you were in student loan debt. Y'all know what I mean? So I figured this out a long time ago because I was tired of being tired. And honestly, having a job that I hated was one of the biggest blessings that I had in life because if my career would have just been the way it was as I experienced it with my internship, I might have just gone home, watched Netflix, never invested, played it safe, and took much longer to build my net worth to 6 figures and beyond. But I didn't do that. And I'm a fighter, literally, and also figuratively speaking, because when life presses against me and tries to pin me up against the wall, I'm like, I got something for you. And so I'm not just going to back down and curl up into a ball and start crying. That's not who I am. And so I'm going to have a solution for every problem that life throws at me. Every single one. Even if I get hit with a few problems and I'm unprepared, don't know what to do, I'm going to hyper focus on that problem until I figure it out and overcome that problem. And a lot of you have the problem of not knowing what to do when it comes to your personal finances. And the answer to that problem is figuring out how to combat that. How can I learn how to budget? Okay, cool. This is how you budget. Oh man, budgeting is kind of hard. It's a little more complicated than just putting numbers into a spreadsheet. Yeah, it really is because then you have to execute in life and you have to compare your actual numbers to what the spreadsheet says. You have to compare what your numbers are in life compared to what the financial app says. And that takes effort and that takes time. And I have realized that just throughout the time of being within the personal finance space and working as a professional who is super busy all the time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to build something that makes it easier for everybody. And this is not really pitching that product. I haven't really even launched it yet. I've spoken about it. I have dropped the link in a few, like a very few places, but I haven't even gone heavy on launching it yet. That's coming up this week, the week after, and so on and so forth, and Thanksgiving and all these other things. But the reason I say that is because I hyper focused on a problem so much that I literally built a solution that does not exist anywhere else. Does that make sense? So perhaps you can do this, you can follow the same logic with your own life and you can build solutions within your own life that actually help you. So instead of saying I'm so busy, I got a family, I don't have time, I have this and this and this, sometimes you have to take a step back and zoom out and look at really what's going to help yourself, what's really going to help the family, what's really going to help your overall situation. And sometimes stepping back and zooming out and taking little actions piece by piece, day by day, dollar by dollar, making minor improvements, little improvements, 1% improvements per day, learning a little bit, learning something that you didn't know. I always work to learn a little something new. And what's crazy is I was speaking about my Wealth Journey Collective group about this morning in our I'm going to start calling them breakfast calls because it's like literally first thing in the morning. But anyway, I was on the breakfast call. We were talking about investments, this, that, and the third. We talk a lot about investing and the stock market and all these other things, and we talk about how we're making thousands of dollars a month. It's a really fun, exciting group to be part of. And I was saying how I got a notification from Coinbase saying you could have turned $12,000 into $50,000 if you would have invested $200 a month for the last 5 years into Bitcoin. And of course, over that time span, 200 times however many months that is, I think it's 60 months, $200 times 60 months, that's going to give you your 12,000. And then the interest and everything when it comes to Bitcoin would have earned you another 38,000 something dollars to get you to that 50K. Excuse me. And I didn't know that. I knew that Bitcoin had a great return, but I didn't know that you could invest that little and get that much out of it. You know, if that's saying I'm 3xing the money that you're putting in just by putting a little bit in every month for 5 years. And that's literally how simple some of this stuff is, but a lot of you don't know that. A lot of you don't know what investing is. A lot of you don't care to know what investing is, but if I told you the results of investing was earning what your salary is now passively over the course of time, that might catch your attention. Because now that's money that you don't have to work for. That is money that is now working very, very, very hard for you. That is money that is going out there and being aggressive. If you look at every dollar like an employee that works for you, and now you have a 6 figure net worth, and you even have an account that has 6 figures in it, that is at least 100,000 employees working for you to go back and get more dollars for you on your behalf. And then those dollars go and get other dollars, and then it just compounds and compounds and compounds and grows and grows and grows. You don't touch it as far as taking money out of it. You just keep putting money in it. That is some extreme power. Oh, almost sneezed. But that's why you might feel financially behind. And it wasn't just investing that I studied, and it wasn't just budgeting and saving. It was every nook and cranny of personal finances, and I continue to do so. Even as a personal finance educator, I continue to expand my horizon, and I continue to learn more and more and more about it, because there is so much to be known about everything in life, even things that you are a natural at, and even things that you are good at. There is a whole nother level of it. There's levels to personal finances. And I don't like to just scratch the surface on things. I want to be in and around everything when it comes to personal finances. I want to know the ins and outs of it. That's what I want to do. And that's exactly what I do. I want to learn more about taxes. I want to learn more about day trading when it comes to stocks, swing trading, this, that, and the third. There's a lot that can be learned about it, and I have been learning about those things for years as well. There's long term investing, but there's also learning how to build a career that is successful, and what skill set that requires, what leadership looks for, how you can continue moving up the corporate ladder, and what that money looks like for you, and having a plan of what to do with that money. A lot of what I talk about isn't just, I want to hit $250,000 by the end of 2027, right? Instead of just making a goal like that, that's not my actual goal, but my goal is actually probably 5 times higher than that. But I say that to say that I'm not just going to set that goal, and that is a wonderful goal to have, and I don't even make that much now, just for clarity. But the thing is, it's not about just setting the goal. It's also about having a plan for what you would do with that money. If you don't know what you would do with that money, that can be dangerous, because you can get exactly what you asked for, exactly what you prayed for, exactly what you fantasized about and visualized and wished for, just to break even with it. You know what I mean? Just to upgrade your lifestyle, and kind of get shiny object syndrome, bigger place, nicer car, nicer clothes, right? Nicer watches, nicer TVs, nicer devices, nicer everything, just upgrading everything. Okay, now it's time to start having kids. And you know what I'm saying? And just in mass, introducing all these things into your life. and without preparing for it and without realizing what the true value of that money is. Because, of course, you're not going to take home $250,000. We're talking about $250,000 before taxes. And so, what does that number really look like? Do you even know? Do you know what tax bracket that's in? These are the types of, these are the levels of thought that have to go through your mind. And this is exactly why you can't just spend every day after work watching TV, chilling on the couch, you know what I'm saying, ordering pizza. You literally cannot do this and expect to have the outcome that you want and that you feel that you deserve, because regardless of how hard you work at work, regardless of how good of an employee you are working against yourself if all you do is go to work and then you go home and you just chill on the couch, watch TV, don't do nothing else. You really have to be out here on the sidelines building a life for yourself. And you don't have to be out here being an entrepreneur or creating content on YouTube. You don't have to do those things. These are things I choose to do because I know that, for one, I love doing it. Two, I feel fulfilled doing it. But also, I'm building extra income streams on top of the income streams that I have right now as far as my job and other things go. But that gives you more security. That helps you get to your savings goals faster. That helps you invest more faster, right? It allows you to do a lot of things in a quicker, more immediate manner than if you didn't have those things. But you don't have to do those things. You can just have a plan to invest, right? You can have a plan to budget better and be a better steward of the money that you have. I'm a little congested, so sometimes when I say money, it might sound like I'm saying bunny. I'm saying money, but there's a saying that one of my old mentors used to always say. She was always like, "Dig your well before you're thirsty," and that's just a fancy way of saying don't be reactive, be proactive. Before you have a family, prepare financially for having a family. You know what I mean? And really, she said that and left it at that as far as dig your well before you're thirsty. But I'm a pattern recognition type of guy, so I make correlations in my mind when people say some of the simplest things. And while that's a very deep saying, I started just connecting the dots all over the place. I was like, okay, dig your well before you're thirsty. Build your 3 to 6 months worth of expenses before an emergency actually happens in your life. Got it. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Prepare for having a family before you have one. Got it. Dig your well before you're thirsty. Invest money into your own individual brokerage account and don't just rely on your 401k. Right? Dig your well before you're thirsty. Look at the different tax advantages that your retirement accounts have, like your Roth IRA and your 401k. Learn what those are, learn what the differences are. Invest in both while you're young so you're not 40 years old wondering why you won't be able to retire at 59 and a half because you haven't invested into those accounts. Got it. And there's a bunch of different ways you can look at dig your well before you're thirsty, but some of the more basic parts of it is budget your money better, because you're literally a hiccup away from being in a financial situation or having a negative bank account or having more debt on your credit card than you can handle. That's all that dig your well before you're thirsty means. And it's extremely important that you take care of business while you're young. Don't just keep saying, but I want to have. So there's like several schools of thoughts on this. It's the young people who just want to have fun all the time. There's nothing wrong with having fun, but over prioritizing fun is a very bad thing. And it leads to very bad habits. We all know what those very bad habits are, so we won't go into them in this video. I touched on those enough in like my entire platform here on YouTube. So if I keep taking a breath every few seconds because my nose likes to get congested when I make these videos. Ugh. But that's okay. I will weather the storm. But we have to get more proactive. We can't just keep saying, but I want to have fun. I want to go out with friends. That is the distractions that I'm telling you about. If you just dialed yourself in and really focused to really understand what you don't know and what you need to know, your priorities would change like that. But because you don't know, like you know some of what you don't know. Excuse me. You may know that you don't know how to save or how to budget or how to invest, or you're really not interested in personal finance in general. You know these things. But when you really start looking into these things individually and you see the level of work and intention that they need, at least up front, that's when you're like, oh man, what have I been doing? And I've had that moment as well, but I started early and I had that moment. So imagine starting later and having that moment. That's what I'm trying to tell everybody about, because then you have the other school of thought. It's like, well, I have a family. I don't have time to do this. I have all these chores to do. Got to get the kids to school, this, that, and the third. Like, there's a lot of things that adults have to do in general. And I will never discredit the fact that any adult is busy. You have to make time. You absolutely have to make time for what's important, whether that's working out, whether that's eating a cleaner diet. You can't keep falling into this trap of, oh, I'm low on time. Oh, I'm low on time. You always have a breather in life. There's these little pockets of time where you're like, oh, here's where I plan my attack now. Oh, the kids are asleep, or I don't have to work a full 12 hours today. That's how I did it, because when I was working 12 hours a day every day for 7 days a week, I was like, you know what? If I have an 8 hour day, which they did start giving me on Fridays, I was like, you know what? This is going to be the day that I go home, and instead of relaxing or sleeping or anything, I'm purely focused on my exit plan. You know what I'm saying? There's always this little pockets of time. And even when I was working 12 hours a day, every day for 7 days a week, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not getting that much sleep anyway. I'm going to drive to the gym. I'm going to get me a workout in, and then I will go to sleep. And then I will wake up a little early, and I will plan for an hour, and I will look at how I'm doing when it comes to my goals. Am I on track? These are not the most exciting things, but what's crazy is do these things in private long enough, and your results will literally be showing in public. You will be happier, you will be healthier, you will be more financially successful, and people will wonder how you did it. Not by going home and watching TV. And I'm not against watching TV. I just genuinely don't like it that much. And that's what made it easier for me to do certain things like read books and watch YouTube videos when it comes to the how-tos of personal finance in general. I watched a lot of Dave Ramsey. I watched his daughter, Rachel Cruz. She's on YouTube as well. Watched a lot of her videos, and they talk about a lot of the same things, and hearing it from two different people, the same message but with different styles, like it really helps it click faster for me. Again, pattern recognition guy. And eventually I graduated from the saving and budgeting and got into investing, and then, you know, entrepreneurship, and then learning how to build streams of income, learning about business, and that a lot of the stuff that I've done outside of work has literally helped me become better at my actual job, my actual 9 to 5. And I've been able to get promoted, and speaking on this platform actually makes me better at public speaking in real life. It makes me better at conversations in real life, because I've been talking to an inanimate object for so long without a live audience, mind you, that when somebody is in front of me giving me real feedback, giving me real body language, I can respond to that. And it's made me just a better leader, a better mentor, a better communicator, a better everything in life, better friend, better everything. So I say that to say, like, the stuff that you do in private will be noticed in public, whether you realize it or not. And that's good or bad. So you have to sacrifice some time. And every now and then, like, I've never been no party person anyway. I ain't no party man. So I was never, like, whenever I was in college, I did go to a few parties, but after a while I was like, nah, y'all have fun without me. I'm gonna stay focused on the grind. I'm gonna stay focused on whatever my studies were, because studies in college, especially when it comes to engineering, they get pretty difficult. You gotta, like, learn how to program and code. You got to learn how electricity works and how electronics works. You have to learn how to literally build prototypes on your own. You have to learn a lot of stuff. And that's just like a little taste of what it is. I had to take classes on how to build and run entire facilities. Like, it was not a game in college. Let me just put it that way. I really put my all into what I did in my college career. And I say that to say, like, those who are patient and those who are willing to sacrifice not having fun right now, those who are like, you know what, I'm going to stay at home today, and then actually be productive when you're at home, those are the ones who win. You don't have to be like everyone else. There is a problem with doing things like everyone else. I actually have a video that's dropping on Wednesday. It's already uploaded to YouTube, but it drops on Wednesday. And it talks about a similar topic when it comes to doing what everyone else is doing. You do as everyone else does, you will get what everyone else gets. And that's what a lot of us don't realize. And if you want that, if you want what everyone else has, that's great. But I listen to people when they talk, and what I'm hearing isn't that. What I'm hearing is that people want above normal returns. People want above normal salaries, right? People want extraordinary results in life. People want all these great things, but you have to work to get them. And that was what clicked for me. Because when I did start getting tired of my first ever full time job, I was like, man, it would be nice to just make 10 grand a month. Because at the time I was making like 60 grand a year, and so 10 grand a month would have been like doubling what I was bringing in. And then um, I was like, it'd be great if I could make 10 grand a month on my own, working from home, on my own, doing my own business, and I can just relax and chill. But at the time, I didn't understand the amount of effort and work it takes to build a 10 grand a month business was more than I knew to put in at that time, and more that I was willing to put in at that time. It sometimes that looks like working the same amount of hours you're working at your full-time job, but outside of work for no pay for years. A lot of people don't realize that. You don't just start up the business and you start getting paid tomorrow. It rarely works like that, especially if you're building a digital platform and you're doing any educational based business. Like, there is a lot that goes into a lot of these things that we just don't realize. There are levels to this, everybody. I hope this all made sense for all of you. I hope y'all enjoyed this so far. Let's see what time. Man, it's already 8:16. That's crazy. Didn't know I was already going for like an hour, but let me know if y'all have any questions in the comments. If you have any comments in general in the chat room. And I also do have the live call posted up here if any of y'all want to join and talk about it, share your thoughts, share your opinions, whatever the case is. But I will share this. I will share this. A lot of people look at me crazy when I voice my opinion, or when I say what's on my mind, or when I just give my take on things, because a lot of people are so conditioned to be just like everyone else that when I do articulate what's on my mind, they're like, they give me that exact reaction, and I'm like, look, it's different around here. You know, when you have different results, you do different things. It's insane to think that you can do what everybody else is doing and still get the results that you want in life, which is essentially doing better than what everyone else is doing around you. And it's not that the goal is to do better than everyone else. The goal is to, for example, make 300 grand a year. That's doing better than most people around you. You get what I'm saying? So if you're doing what the people around you are doing, and you're taking advice from the people around you that have lives that you don't want and have results that you don't want, you're going the wrong way. And this doesn't just go with personal finances. This goes with everything in life, right? This goes with everything in life. Fitness, diet. How many people have you seen that are not really focused on their fitness journey or on their diet or on their overall health? They're just kind of on autopilot, stopping at McDonald's, right? Stopping at Burger King, picking up something from Pizza Hut, not prioritizing their doctor's appointments, not prioritizing their dentist appointments. Always got a headache, dehydrated, because most headaches are due to dehydration, if you didn't know. There's a lot. There's a lot with life. There's many aspects of life, and we oftentimes fall behind in at least one of them. You have to focus on one at a time, really, and then you catch up on the other ones while continuously staying focused on the previous one that you built. So I was focused on personal finances. Then I started focusing on like general health and diet and understanding what different foods do to your body and how your body reacts to them and what food is good and what food is bad, right? Because America is really, 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 really bad when it comes to food in general. So learning about that, learning how other countries do it, getting really deep into that space and diving into the rabbit hole that is health. There's a lot that comes with that. Learning about vitamins, but I was afforded that opportunity once I felt comfortable in personal finance. But I did that while still always building onto my personal finance repertoire, for example. And then, working on other things on top of that. Physical fitness, I was already good at. I've been doing that since I was in high school. I might as well have a PhD, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to exercise in general and how progressive overload works and building muscle and all this, that, and the third. But then there's also the cardio part that I really didn't focus on at all until a few years ago when I got into Muay Thai. And that was what made me really focus on cardio, because if you're sparring somebody and your cardio ain't good, you're going to get the crap beat out of you. And that's a real fighting sport. So people really get hit, and you really have to know how to fight to be in a sport like Muay Thai. But I say all that to say, like, it's building blocks. It's not everything all at once, and you can honestly start a lot of this before you move out of your parents' house and before you get out there in life. Some of these things cost money, some of them don't, but you can always learn things for free here on YouTube. And luckily, I was always well rounded as a kid. I was always into something. I was into Taekwondo as a kid. I was always into fighting. I just always loved doing it. Not like in a troublemaker type of way, but just like the art of it, the fluidity of it, the confidence that comes with it. Playing instruments, uh, working as a team with people, right? I've always liked doing some form of work, and those things brought me joy and fulfillment in life. Maybe not every kid is like that, but I certainly was. I don't get me wrong, I still played my video games, I still ate my junk food, right? I still did what kids do, but I was still well rounded, and so that translated well into my adult life where I have to be well rounded. I can't just do one thing, go home and call it quits. Like when I get home, it's game on for something else. Like now I'm focusing on a different things. So when I am home, and maybe I'll have to do some more lifestyle content, which I really haven't done on this platform, but just to give y'all an example of what I truly mean, it's not just go to work and go home. It's go to work, go home, shadow box for 10 minutes, take a shower, work on YouTube content planning, work on WealthSync AI, work on my Wealth Journey Collective content, working on my group calls that I have every other week, working on overall engagement for Wealth Journey Collective, working on my marketing strategy, working on my launch strategy, working on business in general, like, and that's just a little bit of what I do. And that's like a typical day after work, not a typical weekend day, like a typical day after work. And then I go to sleep, and I may not get 8 hours, I might get 4 to 6 hours, but I get enough to keep it going. And I know I'm not going to be able to do that when I'm older, so now that I'm young right now, I'm going to make sure that I win very violently and crush every single one of my goals. Every single one, excluding nothing. And that's the type of mentality that you have to have in life. It's not always fun, it's not always glamorous, it's not even always enjoyable, but you know what the end goal is. Lifting weights isn't always fun. Running isn't always fun. Hitting pads, sparring, Going to class, not always fun. Thinking of content, it's fun to do, but when it comes to planning it, it's not always fun. So there are levels to this. There is a such thing as a 5 to 9. There is a such thing as life outside of work, and it doesn't always have to be what everybody expects you to do. Like when you say when people ask, "What are you doing after work? What are you doing this weekend? Any plans for the weekend?" It's like they expect you to say that you're going somewhere or you're doing something exciting. It doesn't always have to be like that. I'm not saying to never do anything exciting. It's not what I'm saying. And people always, oftentimes, misunderstand what I say when I say you have to make sacrifices. Who wants to live like that? I'm like, look, you live like this now. In 10 years, you won't have to worry about nothing. But I digress. But anyway, I'm not saying don't have fun. I'm saying have fun, but plan it properly and do so responsibly. Not recklessly, not celebrating for no reason whatsoever when you know you have all these things in the back of your mind. You know you have debt, you know you have stress, you know you have work problems in the back of your mind. You know that you're not physically in the best shape. You know that you're not having the best diet. You know that you skipped your last two doctor's appointments. You know what I'm saying? You know that you're not making the type of money you want to be making to provide the lifestyle that you want to provide. I couldn't sleep. You know what I'm saying, with that stuff in the back of my mind. But some people are partying through that. And I understand that it could be like a coping mechanism, and I'm definitely not judging. I've known a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people in my life. I know how people do with certain things and handle certain things. But all that aside, success doesn't care about what you have going on in life. It doesn't care about how busy you are. It doesn't care about what you don't know. The only thing it cares about is that you do the work to get to where you get to. And there are people that are further behind than you right now, in a worse spot than you are right now, who are absolutely going to kill it. And there's groups of young guys. They call in on this show all the time, talking about what they're doing and how they've been inspired and how they've been reading books and how they've been watching my channel or even other channels. And they watch a multitude of people and listen to a multitude of people to get a grasp of what's going on and what best fits them. And they're starting at zero just like you are, or you have. The difference is they understand their advantage of youth and they're using it and they're investing early on, and they will be in the six-figure net worth probably within 3 to 5 years. And that doesn't necessarily mean 100,000. That could be $250,000 plus. There's no doubt in my mind. And so, if they can do it, why can't you do it? That is the question. I have rambled on long enough, guys. I appreciate every single one of y'all who called in on the show today, or not called in, but tuned into the show today. Hopefully y'all got value from it. There were quite a few viewers today on this live, so also let me know some feedback. Do y'all like the countdown at the beginning? I try to give people some time to join in on the show, but if y'all want me to just start like right as soon as I go live, I will start and do that. Just give me that feedback. Excuse me. I just noticed that some people tend to fall off during that 10-minute wait time. So I'm just trying to give a courtesy to wait on people. But if y'all would rather me start immediately, I can absolutely do that. Simon says, thanks. Thank you, Simon. I appreciate it. Really appreciate it. And just for the record, Simon is one of those guys that I was talking about. He's one of those young guys, 22 years old, killing the game, high earner, and he is investing intentionally and he's doing everything that he's supposed to be doing. And I have no doubt I'd give him 2 to 4 years before he sees six figures because he's just doing it that fast. Six figures as far as net worth, I mean. So in millionaire status, he'll probably be a millionaire early 30s, if not sooner. I mean, this is just based off of how things are right now. Things could progress a lot more between now and then, but just looking at people that I've worked with and people that are within Wealth Journey Collective and people who call in on the show and talk about their intentionality and talk about everything that they do, I'm telling you, just listen to them. They know what they're talking about and they're doing the right things. And listen to what I'm telling you because I'm speaking from experience. I'm not just some guy on the internet who has an opinion but hasn't actually applied these things. I've really done these things in real life, and I've seen the dark side of this. I've seen where people don't apply these things and they don't get the results, and they never get the results, not because they can't ever do it, but because they refuse to ever put in the work, because they either feel like they don't have to, shouldn't have to, or because they feel that they're too busy. And frankly, I just don't think that they want it bad enough, to be honest, because if you want anything bad enough, you will go to the end of the earth to get it, whether you're breaking your sleep cycle, whether you're, up all hours of the night trying to figure something out until you absolutely figure it out. I mean, it's just a different level of intentionality and effort that it boils down to that a lot of people aren't doing. So make sure you focus on your life outside of work. You're putting enough energy into your job already, and I encourage you to continue doing that, because that is where success is. But outside of work, if you have a business idea or a business venture that you want to go on and just try things out, if you have a side hustle, if you have a YouTube channel that you want to do, if if you want to get into sales, if you want to work for yourself, if you want to work from home, if you have personal finance goals, if you have fitness, dietary goals, relationship goals, you have to go for those things outside of work. You have to, because time's going to go by anyway. And regret is one of the worst things you can have in life as you get older. And it makes a lot of people bitter. So I am done talking on this fine evening. Hopefully, y'all have a fantastic night. And I will see y'all next week. And just so y'all know, Wealth Journey series is back on Monday. You will see a lot of those videos. I have a nice system for those. Y'all have a fine